Apollo's Tree, the story of Daphne and Apollo. One day, when Apollo, the god of light and truth, was a young man, he came upon Cupid, the god of love, playing with one of his bows. "What are you doing with my bow?" Apollo asked angrily. "Don't try to steal my glory, Cupid. I've slain a great serpent with that weapon. Play with your own little bow and arrows." "Your arrows may slay serpents, Apollo," said the god of love, "but my arrows can do worse harm. Even you can be wounded by them." With that ominous threat, Cupid flew into the sky and landed atop of a high mountain. Then he pulled 2 arrows from his quiver. One had a blunt tip filled with lead. Whomever was hit by this arrow would run from anyone professing love. The second arrow was sharp and made of gold. Whomever was hit with this arrow would instantly fall in love. Cupid aimed his first arrow at Daphne, a beautiful nymph hunting deep in the woods. Daphne was a follower of Diana, Apollo's twin sister and the goddess of wild things. Like Diana, Daphne loved her freedom, as she roamed the woods and fields with her hair in wild disarray and her limbs bare to the sun and rain. Cupid pulled the bowstring back and shot the blunt-tipped arrow at Daphne. When the arrow flew through the air, it became invisible, and when it pierced Daphne's heart, she felt a sharp pain, but didn't know why. Holding her hands over her wound, Daphne rushed to her father, the river god. "Father," she shouted, "you must make me a promise." "What is it?" called the god who stood in the river, surrounded by water nymphs. "Promise I will never have to get married," Daphne cried. The river god was confused by his daughter's frantic request. He called back, "But I wish to have grandchildren." "No, father, no, I never want to get married. Please, let me always be as free as Diana." "But I want you to marry," cried the god. "No," screamed Daphne, and she beat the water with her fists, then rocked back and forth and sobbed. "All right," shouted the river god. "Do not grieve so, Daphne. I promise I'll never make you marry." "And promise me you'll help me escape my suitors," cried the huntress. "I promise I will," called the river god. After Daphne secured this promise from her father, Cupid aimed his second arrow, the sharp golden one, at Apollo, who was wandering in the woods. Just as the young god came upon Daphne, Cupid pulled back the tight string of his bow and shot the golden arrow into Apollo's heart. The god instantly fell in love with Daphne. Even though the huntress's hair was wild and she wore only rough animal skins, Apollo thought she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. "Hello?" he cried, but Daphne gave him a startled look, then bolted into the woods like a deer. Apollo ran after her, shouting, "Stay! Stay!" But Daphne fled as fast as the wind. "Don't run, please," cried Apollo. "You flee like a dove flees an eagle, but I'm not your enemy. Don't run from me." Daphne continued to run. "Stop!" Apollo cried. Daphne did not slow down. "Do you know who I am?" said the god. "I am not a farm boy or a shepherd. I am the Lord of Delphi, son of Jupiter. I've slain a great serpent with my arrow. But alas, I fear Cupid's weapons have wounded me worse." Daphne continued to run, her bare limbs lit by the sun and her soft hair wild in the wind. Apollo grew tired of begging her to stop, so he began to pick up speed. On the wings of love, running more swiftly than he had ever run before, the god of light and truth gave the girl no rest until soon he was close upon her. Her strength gone, Daphne could feel Apollo's breath on her hair. "Help me, father," she cried to the river god. "Help me." No sooner had she spoken these words that her arms and legs grew heavy and turned to wood. Then her hair became leaves, and her feet became roots growing deep into the ground. She had become a laurel tree, and nothing was left of her but her exquisite loveliness. Apollo embraced the tree's branches as if they were Daphne's arms. He kissed her wooden flesh. Then he pressed his hands against the tree's trunk and wept. "I feel your heart beating beneath this bark," Apollo said, tears running down his face. "Since you can't be my wife, you'll be my sacred tree. I'll use your wood for my harp and for my arrows. I'll weave your branches into a wreath for my head. Heroes and scholars will be crowned with your leaves. You'll always be young and green. My first love, Daphne." The Face in the Pool, the story of Echo and Narcissus. When Jupiter came to the mountains, the wood nymphs rushed to embrace the jovial god. They played with him in icy waterfalls and laughed with him in the lush green glades. Jupiter's wife, Juno, was very jealous, and often she searched the mountainside, trying to catch her husband with the nymphs. But whenever Juno came close to finding Jupiter, a charming nymph named Echo stepped across her path. Echo chatted with Juno in a lively fashion and did whatever she could to stall the goddess until Jupiter and the other nymphs had escaped. Eventually, Juno discovered that Echo had been tricking her, and she flew into a rage. "Your tongue has made a fool of me," she shouted at Echo. "Henceforth, your voice will be more brief, my dear. You will always have the last word, but never the first." And from that day on, poor Echo could only repeat the last words of what others have said. One day, Echo spied a golden-haired youth hunting deer in the woods. The boy's name was Narcissus, and he was the most beautiful young man in the forest. All who looked upon Narcissus fell in love with him immediately, but he would have nothing to do with anyone, for he was very conceited. When Echo first laid eyes on Narcissus, her heart burned like the flame of a torch. She secretly followed him through the woods, loving him more with each step. She got closer and closer until finally, Narcissus heard the leaves rustling. He whirled around and cried out, "Who's here?" From behind a tree, Echo repeated his last word, "Here." Narcissus looked about in wonder. "Who are you? Come to me," he said. "Come to me," said Echo. Narcissus searched the woods, but could not find the nymph. "Stop hiding. Let us meet," he shouted. "Let us meet," Echo cried. Then she stepped from behind the tree and rushed to embrace Narcissus. But the youth panicked when the nymph flung her arms around his neck. He pushed her away and shouted, "Leave me alone. I'd rather die than let you love me." "Love me," was all poor Echo could say as she watched Narcissus run from her in the woods. "Love me, love me, love me." Humiliated and filled with sorrow, Echo wandered the mountains until she found a lonely cave to live in. Meanwhile, Narcissus hunted in the woods, tending only to himself, until one day he discovered a hidden pool of water. The pool had a silvery smooth surface. No shepherds ever disturbed its waters. No goats or cattle. No birds or fallen leaves. Only the sun danced upon the still pool. Tired from his hunting and eager to quench his thirst, Narcissus lay on his stomach and leaned over the water. But when he looked at the glassy surface, he saw someone staring back at him. Narcissus was spellbound. Gazing up at him from the pool were eyes like twin stars, framed by hair as golden as Apollo's, and cheeks as smooth as ivory. But when he leaned down and tried to kiss the perfect lips, he kissed only spring water. When he reached out and tried to embrace this vision of beauty, he found no one there. What love could be more cruel than this? He cried. When my lips kiss my beloved, they touch only water. When I reach for my beloved, I hold only water. Narcissus began to weep. When he wiped away his tears, the person in the water also wiped away tears. Oh no, sobbed Narcissus. I see the truth now. It is myself I weep for. I yearn for my own reflection. As Narcissus cried harder, his tears broke the glassy surface of the pool and caused his reflection to disappear. Come back! Where did you go? The youth cried. I love you so much. At least let me stay and look upon you. Day after day, Narcissus stared at the water, in love with his own reflection. He began to waste away from grief, until one sad morning, he felt himself dying. Goodbye, my love, he shouted to his reflection. Goodbye, my love. Echo cried to Narcissus from her cave deep in the woods. Then, Narcissus took his last breath. After he died, the water nymphs and wood nymphs searched for his body, but all they found was a magnificently beautiful flower beside the hidden pool where the youth had once yearned for his own reflection. The flower had white petals and a yellow center, and from that time on, it was called Narcissus. And alas, poor Echo, desolate after Narcissus's death, did not eat or sleep. As she lay forlornly in her cave, all of her beauty faded away, and she became very thin, until her voice was all that was left. Thereafter, the lonely voice of Echo was heard in the mountains, repeating the last words anyone had said. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Chief Admiral Che, but you can just call me Chief. So, there are 2 more stories this time around. I hope you all liked them because I had a lot of fun reading them. My favorite in particular was Narcissus and the Pool of Water because, oh my gosh, Narcissus is just so needlessly dramatic. It's hilarious. I was actually cracking up every time I got to his death scene, and I had to do a lot of takes because just the idea of him being so dramatic that he refuses to eat just to look at himself longer. Oh my gosh. Also the nymphs, like, I never read a lot of stories about nymphs, so I didn't know what a nymph was, and my only introduction to nymphs was like through Hercules, that old Disney film. But yeah, nymphs are really cool, and I really liked hearing them in these stories. Speaking of the stories, we only have like 6 more stories left in this book, which I think you all really love because there are a lot of classics too. But anyways, I don't know how to do outros to these videos, so I had to look at a lot of ASMR videos and see how they did their outros, which more often than not, they kind of sort of didn't. I guess that makes it easier for people to get hooked into the story, but I love the ones with outros because it makes the video feel all that more personal. And if you guys do love these outros, and if you do love these videos, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe so that way I can communicate with you all a little bit more directly. I'd really love to hear from you and what you think and what kind of stuff you'd like to see too. But anyways, thank you so very much for watching, and I look forward to reading to you again soon. Your arrows may slay serpents, Apollo, said the god of love, but my arrows can do worse harm. Even you can be After he died, the water nymphs and wood nymphs searched for his body, but all they found was a magnificently beautiful flower